I know you guys back at home been waiting for all this action to start taking place, and Titans actually going to be in that first pick position. And Gord, do you think that this is going to influence any of the decision making from the Valkyries?
See, now I'm curious because every time I've seen them, I think whenever they're not first pick, they always go for like Sun Wukong for Ducky plus somebody else, and like Wukong's been pretty kind to Ducky. He's had successful lanes over there, but it feels like a lot of pressure that they're putting onto a pick that, again, isn't really highly contested. I want to see them change it up and again, go for the things that, yes, will make them look strong. Like, if you have to pick up your Neath, I don't care if it's something that nobody else is going for, but I think you need to find your essential carries in those top two spots right here, especially against the Titans. You can't really, like, warrant letting them flex 3 incredible power picks against you.
Well, right now, Titans, they look to shift their priority more towards some of those auto-attack base gods. Kali not going to make it through for Johnny here today. Neither will the Apollo. Seems as if a lot of teams just continue to place a lot of preference towards eliminating Johnny's god pool, Gore, or at least some of the aspects that we've seen from him throughout the season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. The Titans are a team that can run the Loki, so they might lock it in first, but I wouldn't be surprised if this next ban was a Loki as well, right? If you're taking shots at Johnny, might as well continue taking shots at Johnny and try to isolate him. And unless you're willing to try and first pick it, there's no reason to try and let that through. So this is through and through just textbook. Hey, what's that guy good at? Like, their win condition, the reason they were such a problem at the beginning of Phase 1 was Johnny having good performances. If we can just isolate that and shut it down, we don't have anything to worry about.
Is it too much of a stretch of the imagination to think that Johnny might try to resort back to some of his more original comfort picks like the Ao Kuang, especially in response to a god like Artemis that has so much of that hyper carry potential, but a little bit of immobility that could be punishable?
I would love that, actually. I think like the recent changes maybe open the door for him to start playing that Ao Kuang maybe a little more consistently. Things like the Bakasura we haven't seen in a little while. Granted, in Phase 1 it didn't work out too well for him when he played it, but I think there are some merits to like playing around right now, especially like, let's face it, you're 0-4 in the standings right now. We just had a huge mid-season patch. This is the best time to whip out the old junglers that you know you're really good with and see if you can make them work in this meta. And I think that that's something that they're going to be able to open the doors for and have that conversation about, because Johnny is, in my eyes, the essential member. If he carries like he did on those Loki games way back in Phase 1, that's enough to seal the deal for the Valkyries.
Oh, well, what are your initial thoughts, though, on this Gilgamesh Soul combination that the Valkyries have opted for in response to the Artemis first pick? And with a Fender to follow suit, Gore, feel as though Soul Gilgamesh still really aggressive. That Brutalize, though, can definitely stick to that Disapparate prior to hitting the immunity frame period and deal a decent chunk of damage.
I think this is going to be problematic is the way I would describe it. Like, you've got Soul, like you said, a lot of self-survivability in terms of invincibility and also some self-healing. Gilgamesh has a lot of good peel and setup, but Fenrir has a lot of more setup than, like, you can kick him back with a drop kick, he's going to jump back in. And the thing that is making it a lot more interesting is it's not the Gilgamesh for Johnny, which admittedly makes sense. They haven't really been going that route, but because the Tsukiyomi's been locked in, it changes things up for him.
You don't think there's any possibility that Tsuki could be for Ducky?
Yeah.
That's kind of where my mind was headed with it, because I guess it'd be an interesting dynamic either way. It's still a nice, aggressive sort of frontline / backline dynamic here for the Valkyries, and not only that, but I do think that it introduces a lot of really solid dive potential, which is going to be instrumental, I think, when trying to take down the likes of an Artemis and Raijin.
And it makes way more sense. Like, so just to throw it out there, Tsukiyomi has been like the most picked god for Johnny pretty much all year that they've been able to get their hands on, right? Like, there were some periods where Loki was banned, they weren't able to get that done. His next one is Gilgamesh, so it's like that conflicting, like, man, I kind of want to see you do your Tsukiyomi, but I know the Gilgamesh is going to be better for you. Plus, I think this is really heavy to mention, but Nika's performances on Tsukiyomi solo sells me on it more than anything else that you could possibly imagine. So if you can get a little bit of that from Ducky here, it's going to be enough to elevate the team.
Seeing all of this focus, though, it's solely based in Zero and Johnny's direction as far as the bans are concerned. Does that not... I think that should definitely encourage the Valkyries in terms of, like, maybe their dual lane to have a really big resurgence period. I mean, we know that Emilito and Rafa are definitely more than capable of performing, Gore. You're looking at a couple of two-time world champions to boot, as well as just, like, they dominated the Pro League for years, and to see them struggling as much as they have been now, again, it's like we get that there's ping issues, but there are just instances where I definitely feel like we could see more from them. And do you think that this is one of those sets where we kind of need to, when you see so much focus being placed against their jungle and mid?
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of the conversation last year too, right? It was specifically around Raffer. Emilito wasn't in the league at the time, and it was that conversation of like, man, like this guy, we know this guy's great, and he has so many moments where you're like, that's the Raffer we expect to see playing, and yet sometimes he just doesn't show up to have that. I think this Kuzenbo fits into his style, especially with the Soul, the Tsukuyomi, the Gilgamesh. Like, there's a lot of setup here. It does come down to now Emilito, though, on that Soul and how he's going to be able to perform.
You got the Ares onto it, and that's not even counting what Cyclone Spin can also do on the Artemis. I think he hit it perfectly on with that one, is you need beads. I would honestly say Raffer probably even needs the beads.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's going to hit level 5, have that Watery Grave available, but it's just that there's so many relics you want to get as a support right now. He goes with the Blink and uses it to group this wave early, but he wants Sunder, he wants more, but Ducky's just dead to Benji. I don't know what happened over here, but that Benji just walked at him and used that Fighter's Mask start in order to get that first blood.
Benji getting on the board quickly for the Titans, and keeping Ducky down is probably one of their better priorities when it comes to the in-game. It seems that the Titans have done their homework and done the drafting phase to keep Johnny and Zeros a little bit more at bay as far as the game goes. So first blood strikes for the Titans.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see the way that Benji had started. Maybe he started in a way that let him spike to 2 earlier than Ducky, but Ducky looked like he had a pretty hefty wave behind him as he was dying. So interested in seeing what happens here. Her Benji starts with a 2, which is what you would expect for the Hercules, but Ducky just ends up taking a little bit too much minion aggro, and no, he doesn't combo him or anything. He just stat checks him on that fight, and that's what Hercules does better than just about anyone else early on, is just outright trade without even having to worry about hitting his buttons optimally.
Yeah, he just gets that first minion wave advantage onto it, able to hit level 2 instantly, just driving strike right at him. Like we said, I mean, this is a W key team, and there's probably no solo laner better at it than a Hercules.
And you know that you've been accelerated towards that, whereas the enemy has not. So I like this idea. Send Scary D over, try and keep Ducky down, because if they get another kill on him early, he might just be out of the game.
Johnny's making a rotation over as well. Scary going to start on the blue buff, a leap in by Ducky to try and stop down Scary. It's going to be a nice pluck there, but that's not going to stop the drop kick afterward. Ducky returns fire, taking down the jungler, but now still with the soul lane here, Johnny and Ducky can turn this one onto Benji. There's no reason they can't kill him here, but maybe just Benji turns it on his own and takes down Johnny.
Yeah, but he's out of mana. Ducky should have the drop kick coming up soon. Gets a stun, but Benji's beads were up and ready, so he walks out. It's 1 for 1, but a little bit of a miscommunication on how they want to play that. I think Ducky goes over at the perfect time, right as Johnny arrives. They use their buttons as Scary is trying to go up against. That physical protection just becomes so valuable.
That's going to be the supernova out of Emilito. He's going to be forced to go back to the tower, and Johnny makes another rotation over to the solo lane, able to pick up Benji under the tower with the help of Ducky there. So aggression into the dual lane leads to a nice gank and solo.
Up and get himself in the game and not have to wait until, hey, our first fight I'm coming into is down. I'm down so much gold. You know, I've got to make a perfect play. This is an easy execution. It's a good initiation by Ducky. Good at invading their buffs and being active around their side of the jungle. Giving him a pick like the Tsukuyomi that lets him actually fight makes way more sense.
Well, they're going to go right onto Scary D. No Ragnarok form. Drop kicked against the wall, and another pick on the board for Johnny. Great rotation yet again from Ducky.
And this is not a great start for Scary now. He's level 6. So even though Benji got off to that great lead and still holds a pretty good net worth lead of 300 gold, XP is in the other way.
Oh, Raffer's going to fall down very quickly. Supernova expended as well. That's going to force it to separate out of Emilito, but Cyclone able to pick up a kill and finally get some other part of the map on the board with their first kill. All that action has been in that jungle and solo.
Soul is just good enough that I'm kind of down to put her both places.
Well, Emilito is under fire by Cyclone, Supernova, and Desaparate expended to get Emil out of danger, and he loses quite a hefty chunk of his life. Raffer going to rotate over, but Cyclone will make sure to clear the ward out, so he'll spot him out.
Damage, you don't get to leverage it super well. So I think I would like to see him go more hybrid from here.
Well, Roar's going to be the only one to try and stop this Gold Fury, although it is just a lone Ares. He's going to go for the no escape and not pull a single person in, pop 3 sets of beads and the Watery Grave.
Honestly, I think that if you would ask Aurora, will you trade a Gold Fury for 3 beads and an ult? He might say yes. 3 beads is so valuable, especially on a character like Merlin that does not have on-demand CC immunity.
Safe to dive under, though. Even this early on, towers really don't seem to do too much to some of these front lines, especially because they're usually not diving at 20% health. They're going for the full health dives, and Malitu is going to lose a nice little bit of chunk there of his health. Cyclone Spin now on the back end of this fight. Raffer going to get the Sumo Slam to force the beads out, and that'll be a quick escape for the Hunter.
Yeah, not a bad trade, though, for Cyclone. I mean, he loses Beads ult, which is a lot on someone like Artemis, because that's your only forms of safety. But Raffer uses his Blink ultimate. Emilito uses his Aegis. Fairly okay trade, I would say, there between the two.
Sunder used onto Benji. Scary D rotating through. Gonna get the Winter Samash out. Brutalize on top of Ducky. Boulder comes out, and one more basic assault is necessary.
Nice.
Heroic leaps right in place, and Scary D will put him in the grave and get himself on the board.
That was a little scary for a second there. Really good turnaround attempt there by Ducky. Think he had another Sunder charge that he put onto Scary right before he drop kicked him, which is exactly what you need to do in that situation. So Johnny and the rest of the Valkyries had a real opportunity to expand this lead instead of just letting it stagnate.
Is this just the classic Paul play? Just go for a defensive item early up into the build?
Yep, he loves it. He loves trying to get, because he knows he's going to get dove because he's Paul, and he will continue to get dove because he's Paul, but he wants to survive in those moments. I think that I'd prefer the damage, but that's what Paul likes to do.
Well, Scary's going to take about half his health in the process of it. Tycho Drums come out, and Johnny with the ultimate will be sure to take him down. Now into the back line, Paul is under fire by Emily too. He's going to get the Thunder Crash over the wall, but Emil is on the full chase, and Aurora is caught out in the midst of it. Double kill on the board for Johnny, and Emil trying to take down Paul under the tower. Aegis comes through to save his life for the meanwhile, I should say, as Ducky takes down Paul under the tower.
A great rotation coming from Emilito. Benji looks to get involved still because he still has that boulder, and he's going to get a good one coming off the wall, but it's still a 1v4.
And he might still make it out of here. Ducky doesn't have any mana. Emil is very low on health. Zeros on the wrong side of the tower, so it looks like Benji makes it out for now, but that's a 3-for-none trade in favor of the Valkyries.
Just a good counter engage, not the cleanest engagement there from Scary D, who just didn't have the defense quite yet. He just now gets the Pestilence before he was just sitting
Oh no,
on that
this is
Talisman
bad. This is so bad. Cyclone just walks up. Not only does he steal the Pyromancer, gets the kill on top of that one. Huge rotation from the Hunter.
Beautiful timing to come in. I mean, he's late on the rotation in comparison to Emilito, and that's what lets them pull the Gold Fear or get the kills 3-0. But now the Valkyries take a little bit too long. They try to dive Benji. Benji wastes their time very effectively, and they get a tier 1, and that's it, because the Titans are going to get this Fire Giant. I don't think anyone's going to get here in time because of Cyclone's well-timed rotation in and the Valkyries' lack of focus on what they needed to do at the right moment.
They got to be quick on this one. Johnny still has a chance to steal as
Maybe
well
not.
as Raffer. Fire Giant still going through. Boulder comes out. It's off the mark. The Valkyries steal it away. Aurora going to pull only Raffer in, but he takes down Benji before he gets yanked back into the clutches of the Ares. Emil pushing forward. Paul up into the Tycho drum. Ducky finds Scary D. Chain comes out. Emilitu likely going to fall from the damage of the chains, but his lifesteal is good enough to keep him alive, and Ducky picks up the double.
Man, I thought it was going to be over. I thought the Titans had the damage, and so did they, but the Valkyries are able to come back right on time. Great drop kick.
No.
Gets both backliners, but no one dives in. Raffer and Ducky a little bit too scared to dive the tier 2, but they don't need to force it because they got 3 members with a Fire Giant. It was Emilito over the wall with the Supernova that ended up stealing it away. And now this is where their objective damage through the soul is going to really shine, because Emilito's got the FG, he's got the Telkine's ring done. They've got plenty of time in order to strip away some of these structures. A huge play there from the Valkyries.
Tier 2 tower still manages to stand, not for much longer. All it'll take is one little sneeze to drop that one down, but Emilito chunking for already, what was that, 162 per auto that he was swinging onto that one, and he's only 3 items deep into the build.
Yeah, very, very good objective damage between the Fire Giant and just Soul passive. You're going to really do a lot of the heavy lifting there. The Valkyries have got to reset again. I mean, Johnny's overdoing blue buff while Primal Fury's up. You've got a Fire Giant ticking away. This is where you got to group. You've got to make some things happen. Now, if you're the Valkyries, it's not Fire Giant, great, we were able to stall out the game. It's Fire Giant, great, we can take control of the game.
Scary D jumping into the fray of it. A push onto Ducky. Primal Fury being ulted by the mid laner, but nobody's going to secure it. In fact, they're going to leash it away. Aurora going to try and pull in two, and he manages to grab both of the frontliners. Ducky down, Raptor down, and now it's a sticky situation here for the Valkyries. Emily able to pick up a quick double kill, or at least one there. Scary picks up the double. Paul grabs one of his own, and now it's only Zeros, the only one without the Fire Giant for his team. Might not be making out of here either as Benji blinks under the tower.
Benji can tank this for as long as he pleases. Zero still has both relics, and I feel like he's got to use them if he wants to have any chance of surviving. Flicker comes up right on time, and I believe that will get him out of danger. But I want to give a ton of credit to the Titans at the exact same time. They recognize the Valkyries aren't grouping properly, and they're the ones, they're not deterred because they lost fire. They're not shying away from these fights. They're not just backing up and saying, okay, this is what I think the Valkyries will do. It's cleared mid-wave, and it's not a lot, but you see a little sliver of HP missing there on his screen. He's going to need some lifesteal, I think, in order to counteract it.
A lot of damage thrown through. Scary under half. He's going to be forced to jump away from the dropkick, but Benji's the one caught on the middle of 5. He's down to half health. Raptor with the watery grave to cause some zoning. Aurora not going to pull anybody with the Unchained. Raptor going to get picked back up by the Ragnarok and thrown into the midst of the team. Cyclone going to be the one to pick him up. And now Scary D has to retreat.
Really good 3 from Cyclone over the wall. Got great poke on the entirety of the team. And that kind of leaves Ducky back now to try and contend with this. Good Thunder Crash in. Benji just controlling space once again on this Hercules. He has looked nearly unstoppable on this pick as of late. Loved that pick for him. And now, even though that looked like a potential good fight for the Valkyries, it's the Titans standing 5 strong, pulling FG.
Well, Paul is on the backside of it, not fully committing to it. Like you said, that Sacrificial Shroud stealing away a little bit of his health every time he casts. Doesn't want to be too low, with Johnny still waiting in the wings as well as Zeros and Emil, the full damage dealers of them. Emil gets pushed against the wall. FG goes the ways of the Titans. Johnny dives in with the Piercing Moonlight, but not going to find anybody. Meanwhile, Scary's going to find Emilito on the backside.
Love that play there from Scary and from Benji. They play it beautifully on those dives in, and the Valkyries just get punished. The Titans willing to coin flip that FG a little bit. That was risky, but they're in a position to know that they can punish the Valkyries even if they lose the FG. You know, they obviously want the Fire Giant. They're going to be able to do a lot more with it. But even if they lose it in that scenario, Johnny is still likely dying. Emilito is still likely dying on the surge forward after the fact. So now that they got FG, in addition to taking a good fight, they've got the base to take.
Watery Grave in by Raptor to zone them away. Ducky somehow was able to get out for only a moment before Scary D chases him into the back line. Raptor now on full retreat from 3. Right side Phoenix still stands, but I can't quite say the same for Raptor. He is under siege in his own tier 2 tower. Paul and Aurora will make sure to chase him out and take him down.
Sunder is good onto Aurora, and that's going to deal some damage, but Aurora is able to get out. One more tower shot would have done it, but he's able to survive as Cyclone and Scary will be able to lifesteal them up pretty effectively. And with the FG sustain, that doesn't hurt you too much either. That'll cover you on that front as well. So now you're in a position where that downside of Sacrificial Shroud doesn't really feel like it's there, with all of the upside still available to you.
They're getting set up now for this mid lane Phoenix Siege. The right side still has minions pushed all the way. They need someone to defend that soon. Benji gets pushed into the back. Emil goes forward with the Supernova, but not going to find much on top of about quarter of Cyclone's health. The no escape comes through from the Guardian, but unfortunately Ducky's going to be the one that goes down. Raptor not going to make it through either, as well as Emilito. He will fall down. Paul has to use his beads, and they're sieging down to take out Johnny, who's forced to use that Piercing Moonlight.
Benji still on the chase. Oh, that Earthbreaker just a little bit wide left, but they still want the kill onto the Tsukiyomi. Looks like they're playing for the kills before they take the Titan.
Oh, Titan's going to go down very quickly for them, able to clean this one up in about 27 minutes for these players. Titans, it looked a little shaky at first for them, but aggro, in the end of it all, they're able to bring in the first game.
It opens up a lot of the fun conversation that the Valkyries are here to contend. In fact, Emilitu, of all people, being the person who is able to strip away the Fire Giant. Now, things were very unfortunate with Otaku because it felt like every good came with a price afterward, and a lot of it would be that you're finally able to set things up, you feel confident, you feel like you're winning, or especially here in this Fire Giant fight, and they get it onto 3 members, but they don't keep it that long, and they lose almost everybody right afterward.
think the main issue that I noticed with the Valhalla Valkyries is that they just didn't really have a response for Cyclone. He was an absolute menace on the Artemis, and I know we're showcasing this Benji level 1-2 kill one more time.
Look, that's just getting hurt.
It's just pain.
That's just textbook.
It's just pain, man, the whole way through. But that's what Hercules is widely known for, is just how much of a lane bully he can be, and wasn't just a lane bully in the team fights. Like I mentioned, Cyclone really just free casting to his heart's content here with the Artemis. Just so many resources being expended from the Valhalla Valkyries in order to try and take down the likes of Scary, the likes of Benji, the likes of Roar, and nothing was ever left in the tank to actually deal with the main issue in my mind, and that was Cyclone.
Yeah, I mean, look at that, 28,000 damage. He did double the highest, almost double the highest, double Johnny's damage at the minimum.
As we've seen, but at the very least, I think it's worth consideration for the Valhalla Valkyries, given the fact that Titans did first pick this Artemis. Maybe it might be worth it, but it's definitely a risky situation.
Yeah, I mean, locking it in, like, over the Gilgamesh, over, well, literally anything, over Raijin, over Giannis, over anything that we've seen first pick, at save for the Tiamat, which was banned away. The fact that you're willing to go Artemis that early showcases maybe a lot about what you're thinking about this game and how well that you know that Cyclone's going to be under control, and maybe just controlling specifically the duo lane. Cyclone wasn't worried about it to begin with, and he wasn't worried about it at the end. I mean, he was 5-1-8.
Or if you know that the Titans have this preference to take that Artemis first, don't opt to ban it right away. Instead, maybe just look for stronger response picks that are better at handling and controlling that Artemis and the space that she was able to work with, because we did see a lot of frontline being provided by the likes of Scary, Benji, and Aurora, but we've been seeing a lot of success for teams lately, Gore, within the past couple of weeks on those Odin takes, and we don't necessarily have to withhold that Odin pick for later on in composition. Let the Titans have the Artemis, and maybe this is where we could see some of that flexibility that I think we all know the Valkyries are capable of actually shine through.
That's the fun part, right? When you get Odin, you go the Morrigan. We know Xeros has a good Morrigan in his back pocket, so you all of a sudden stack those up. It makes things a lot more difficult for somebody that doesn't have a leap or a dash. Like, look, you pop your 2, your Artemis, you're going to zoom a little faster. You have a lot of CC in your kit to help you kind of get away, but there's a certain point where you're just not going to be able to get away. Phantom becomes part of the conversation, but they just decide to jump over that entirely and ban it out. And I think it's one of those double-edged blades, right? Like, you ban that out, now Ymir or Yamoja are going to be available for the other team, and that just doesn't feel good. Or you let it through, and then you have to change your entire draft and really hope that Xeros and Ducky have a great game to shut it down.
Gilgamesh, Ymir, Fenrir, all three really strong options and flex pick opportunities for the Tartarus Titans if they decide to go in either of those directions, but it's actually going to be the Loki that they're going to opt to take away. I think this is a smart look for the Titans, though, given the fact that with that Kuzenbo having actually been their third ban means that they're still keeping their eye on Johnny, just a little bit more directly here.
And it goes back to the conversation we were having in Game 1, right? I mean, almost exactly that, where it's just like, well, hey, do you need to ban Loki here? Probably not. You just have to first pick it. You don't want Johnny to get it because that's where the Valkyries were winning their games, was when he was on this Loki. But Scary looks good on Loki too, so it's not necessarily like we're stripping it from you just so you don't have it. It's also a benefit to the Titans, and I think they first picked Loki in the past before, so it's not even that far-fetched for them to be able to lock this in. I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Valks, and I feel bad for him, but maybe onto Johnny. He had a really good performance in Game 1, but he's got to do it again, maybe then some, here in Game 2.
And from an analytical perspective, Gore, do you think that it's in the Valkyries' best interest to continue defaulting towards the second pick option, or do you think it might fare a little bit better for them if they actually had their choice right away with just taking that first pick after a loss?
You know, if I'm second pick against the Valkyries, one of those bands, like I'm dropping that Artemis, well, I guess for them it'd be I'm dropping the Kuzenbo for the Loki again. I'm making sure they can't get it. Now I'm trying to think of what, outside of Loki, what do I want to first pick if I'm the Valkyries? And Neith? Not really. I don't know if there's a lot that they can go for. I don't mind this. I don't know that it's necessarily helping them that they're always second pick. I'm just not sure that they have any one priority outside of this Loki for them to go for.
Well, it seems as though the Tartarus Titans are only looking to try and further enhance that Loki pick for Scary. This Ganesh, Dharmic Pillars, I think is a really interesting ability for utility for the Tartarus Titans here, because it's just going to keep everybody locked in for whoever gets stuck inside there. And unless Gilgamesh or Osiris are really willing to expend their ultimates inside that Dharmic Pillars gore, I think that'd be a prime area of operation for Paul to follow up on that Halbois.
You know, so I'm about to throw something into the world that nobody wants to hear. It'd be an insane buff for Odin specifically, but like Dharmic Pillars in my mind, like it's smaller, but it does so much better than the Odin cage in terms of like actually wanting you to stay inside it, because like my prots are going to get shredded, I'm slowed, all of a sudden I'm taking a lot of damage. Like it hurts to get hit by the Dharmic Pillars, and if the Titans plays that well, I mean a Loki follow-up, a Hebo follow-up, are you kidding me? Like you're getting absolutely shredded afterward, and it's something that I think you have to be worried about here. And if like Odin had any of those on there, he'd be busted. It would be out of the question. I think that Ganesh, because the rest of his kit is so, I want to just say more passive to be playstyle and the way he matches up, I think it makes things a little more interesting here. There is going to be a little bit of fun, though, because if you misplace the pillars, Paul could accidentally ult and collide with it and then just not go anywhere. There's a downside to it, but I doubt we're going to see that scenario a lot.
I was actually wondering if this Khepri pick would be the fifth ban option for the Tartarus Titans. They actually choose to take away Sobek, but Raffer, whenever he pulls out this Khepri, his sole mission is just trying to keep Zeros alive while he's trying to actually perform that recall demons. And the interesting part as well about the Zhang Kui here, Gore, is we haven't seen any team succeed with it thus far in Season 8, but more importantly, I think that the Zhang Kui just has a lot of initially tanky stats that could be more difficult for a Halbois Loki combination to immediately eat through.
That's, you know, I will give them a lot of credit. Gilgamesh, Osiris, Zhang Kui, and Khepri is a living team. It is not going to, like, burst you down in a lot of fights. It's going to take you 45 seconds to get through this team, or this team's going to get through you, because their health bars are just going to be that much bigger, which, like you said, for Loki, like maybe he's slippery enough that he can get out of there, but Halbois doesn't have that. Like, I mean, what, you're going to throw your water carpet away and hope that your 1,500 health is enough? Like, you're not going to feel too great, I think, in the face of this. I think they have a lot of opportunities just to out-survive the Titans, but there's a lot of threat and a lot of pressure on them to perform on picks that just have not necessarily performed up to this point.
And this is, I believe, the second time that we're actually going to see Cyclone on this Izanami. And Izanami, I think, to a certain extent, kind of fulfills more or less the same sort of goals as what an Artemis is able to accomplish.
Lane mage, aggro. I know we've talked about it before. The beads on Zhang Kui, I mean, it's a necessary evil.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think you could have gotten away with Blink Aegis this game, honestly, J-Mac. I mean, yeah, the Loki ultimate scares you a little bit, but you're going to have to get a little bit tanky throughout the build in order to withstand it no matter what. You don't have perfect, easy to execute hard CC on the other side. You're knock-up immune during your ult, so you don't have to worry too much about Aurora's dash or Benji's 2 or anything like that. You know, you've got some counterplay options in those moments, so maybe this could have been the one that made it work, but like you said, it's kind of a necessary evil.
A lot of aggression early on both sides of the map. A potential invade for the Harpy here for Emil and Raffer, trying to push Cyclone and Aurora out, and we did see some fighting over that mid-camp. Now Cyclone left alone as the lone Izanami going to be forced to dash away. Emil was waiting on the backside for it. He throws out the crystal, but he's going to have to be careful. Aurora's here. And we'll get another set of purification beads, so both hunters, no relic.
Yeah, definitely some disrespect there from Cyclone Spin. I don't know what he thought would happen by stepping up to that wave, but that is what is going to happen to him every time. He's going to lose the beads, and he loses a huge chunk of his HP as well, so now it's pretty easy to get zoned, and that's exactly what Raffer and Emilita are doing. Good job by them, understanding that they've got total lane dominance from here, that one abduct would spell a ton of HP off Cyclone. Wouldn't kill him from this health threshold anymore, but you can't safely go for that wave at this point.
Johnny is just slamming down the W key in the enemy jungle. He's going to get a nice little tether off, forces the beads out of Scary D, and will also work on taking away that Harpy camp. That Mannequin Scepter going to help him push that one out very quickly and get another relic off the board from the Titans.
Have to imagine this is a super positive matchup for Osiris jungle. I mean, the stealth doesn't really bother you because you have your tether to let you easily sort of track it. You right there, you see the aim strike come out, all of a sudden, just instantly pop the tether, dealing no damage to me. And I can chill and just stand on your back camps and do whatever I please. Love this from Johnny. Be nice and aggressive. Scary knows he's there. That's why he's not leaving his speed buff because he doesn't want it. He's leaving it because he knows he can't have it. He already lost purification beads, and Johnny can chase him down easily from this position.
Probably one of the better teams built around a Zhongkui that can possibly get him that win. I think Raffer going back onto his Khepri is probably one of the big benefits from the Aurora. Loses the dash on that, a nice root, and that's looking to be first blood, but Emilitu can't confirm it, can't get that last basic, and now Cyclone's trying to turn it back on them, walking straight at them. Emel's now going to have to be the one who falls back. Raffer walking forward, going to get some nice damage with the Rising Dawn, but Aurora barely squeaks out. Valkyries have with the double warrior as well as the Guardian for that one. I mean, the hardcore triple front line. Then you throw in Zeros, who's going to be that hybrid tanky mage on top of that one. Yeah, I think you just deathball at them. They're going to try it with the roar. He's going to throw out the pillars just to kind of keep himself a little bit zoned there. Ulted by Johnny, looking for someone. He's got the tether onto Scary and to a roar. Scary's going to turn back on tail, but he's going to be forced to ult immediately because 3 were still W'ing at him. Yeah, not having the best later game performance might be kind of getting back to them here in the early game. We'll see if they can clean it up as the game does go on. One big improvement the Valkyries have already had is, well, Ducky didn't get first blooded at the first minion wave this time. Still no first blood, speaking of here at almost 8 minutes in.
Yeah, that's the dream, is to not have that sort of repeat performance in the same matchup. And Ducky has learned his lesson. You saw him being very respectful to Benji on wave 1 and wave 2, so rightly so. But now he's got to worry about Benji coming in with Scary D because Scary has that ultimate ready.
He's going to go right in under the tower, gets a nice little stun. The winds come through. Ducky going to avoid being pulled in for now, trying to turn it back around, but yet again, Benji will be the one to get first blood on the solo lane.
Really smart use of the 1 as Johnny goes in trying to get Scary, but just can't quite find him in that stealth. That activation of the Sunforged Scimitar actually knocked Benji back because he was in the winds of Shamash and nearly bought him enough space to not get driving striked and killed, but overall just a really easy setup. No beads this time for Ducky. I believe that's what he had in game 1 in this lane. Doesn't have them this time around. Immediate assassinate straight into the combo from Benji.
Oh no, Johnny. There's an ultimate still available for Benji, but I don't know if he has the mana to grab it. Just gets it in time, but Johnny reads the throw and is able to get away from that one. Johnny lives to see another day.
Really good. Cyclone's going to be able to press 1 and just hit like an absolute Mack truck with every single auto. I like the idea.
Yeah, complete objective shred more than anything for it. And speaking of objective shred, the Valkyries are trying to take this quick Gold Fury before the Titans have a chance to respond to it. Heads up play by the Valkyries, they get the first objective.
Yeah, not a whole lot in terms of those extra little objectives, but I don't think you're too stressed about how many Draugrs you're losing, and beyond the first coup or two, you're not usually yelling about that too much either. I think they're in a fine position from here. You know, Zeros has been able to get through the early game in a pretty good spot.
Johnny able to steal that objective away. Paul forced to ult away. Zeros throws out the ghost, but they're just so spread out that it's not able to get any kind of value for her. Dharmic Pillars drop, keeps Emil and Raffer locked in place, but Paul doesn't have much follow-up for the ultimate. Scared E goes in, and a nice revive from Raffer will make sure that Emil gets out.
Very nice revive, but look at this. Cyclone dashes in, looks for Zeros, and the Sunder will let him get the damage done. Zeros falls to Cyclone, and now Emil's going to get caught anyways.
And they might be looking for Raffer as well, or maybe just a roar to zone him away so they can steal away a red buff. What looked so good early on for the Valks in that fight just turned sour so fast.
And now it's going to keep on going. Oh, no. Raffer gets caught. No mana really left. I don't know if he's got enough to abduct, and he's been sundered, but looks like that double root is enough to buy him his life back. Again, that good idea.
The mid-harpies for themselves.
And all of a sudden, it's a 3,000 gold lead for the Titans. I mean, they get the Pyromancer as they lose their red. It just more of the same. The Valkyries had this opportunity, and now we're just still waiting for it to materialize.
Oh, Johnny's already lost half of his health in an instant. Benji's rotated through. He's going to get the pull onto Raffer, knocking him up. It's going to force the ultimate out of himself very early on. He's going to auto-proc that one on top of the Dharmic Pillars, but now he's got to find a way out of it. Benji gets another pluck, this time on Emil, takes over half his health, gets the beads out. Ducky not going to be able to get the drop kick onto the 2, and the Winds of Shamash will be expended because of it.
And look at where Cyclone's coming from. He knows he's on a ward, but a great double stun from Scary.
Scary's going to get a nice one through. Zeros goes into the back line, but he doesn't have much damage on the board just yet for himself. Not getting a whole lot of value out of throwing out the Ghost there. All it is feels like a zone tool for him.
Exactly. Stops the engage from continuing there from the Titans. Don't mind that use of Zero's ultimate at all in that moment. But it's really just the Titans, again, being the aggressors, and the Valkyries are able to fend them off. Loved the idea from Emilito. He tried to use his ultimate in order to send Benji away before Raffer could get pushed back off of that pull. It was just a little bit mistimed, but thought it was a really smart idea there from Emilito. Almost a shame it doesn't work out for him. But for all the, for the Gold Fury, for these red buff invades that have been going the Valkyries' way, they're still down 3,000 gold, and I just don't think this is a team composition that is able to match the output of the other side come late game. They had to get a lead and start to just run it down with these pressure picks. Their opportunity. It's probably not going to be for a little bit because neither Emilito nor Zeros have their beads available. Once those are back up, maybe they can try and look for an aggressive play.
This may be the end of the line for old Ducky. He's going to throw out the Winds of Shamash. Get a nice stun onto Scary, try and turn that one away, but Scary immediately uses his ultimate to get out of the fight. Loses the tier 1 tower, and maybe able to pick up at least one here. They got a 4-man rotation on this right-hand side. Long-range route misses on Benji.
And with that, that should be the end of that. But losing the Assassinate in exchange for the wins on the other side, I feel like is a pretty decent trade for the Valkyries, because that Assassinate has caused a lot of problems.
Well, Benji's going to get one under the tower, and that might be the end of the road for old Ducky. I say that, though. Raffer's going to throw out the ultimate onto him. It will finally get popped on the backside for it. Zeros dives into the back with the Ghost, going on to Paul, who has no ultimate. This could be a perfect pickup for them. It will be Johnny who gets the last hit for that one, claiming the first kill on the board for the Valkyries. But Benji still had that Excavate online and will take one down.
Zero's now in trouble. No ultimate, no relics. Scary backing up. He's going to
rude.
try and let Benji set him up, and of course he's going to land it.
But Cyclone has made his rotation all the way across the map, and they'll be able to take down Zeros on the back end for Scary, and Benji grabs Raffer with the help of Cyclone Spin, now level 18 on the Izanami.
Always in the right spots at the right time. Coming in to play cleanup on these fights. And Johnny and Emil are going to give what they can, and that's just snagging this tier 2, but Benji's going to be able to keep both these guys busy while the rest of the team does FG.
Fire Giant already down to half health. Emil going to throw out the ultimate against Benji, but now he is low on mana. He's going to need a nice little crystal teleport to get himself out. Misses the driving strike there from Benji, but he's just delaying it so that way the Titans can pick up Fire Giant.
Emilito still has his crystal teleport. He's going to need to use it because Paul was on the way.
Secondary go-to defensive.
He's liked it a lot so far, and it worked out okay for him, I'd say, in Game 1, and didn't really need to use it too much. Mantle definitely going to feel better up against someone like a Zhong and an Osiris who are going to be directly on top of you on their dives instead of someone like a Tsukiyomi who's going to probably get you beyond that Mantle threshold while he's still in his piercing moonlight.
Slow comes through from Cyclone Spin, looking at Raffer, starting to slowly chunk through that HP bar. Gary goes into the back line with the Assassinate, puts Raffer down to half health, and Ducky as well. Johnny trying to go at them into the back line, gets the ultimate out of Paul, and not able to clean it up because Cyclone and Paul just have a little too much damage for the jungler. Emil also low. Ultimate comes out from Raffer. He's going to get dropped down and also ends up dropping his target right into place.
Yeah, that should do it here in this game too. And Zeros gets in there, gets a good blink ultimate off, and then doesn't have Aegis and just gets one shot by a Sunder into a Hebo ult. Definitely had some opportunities in this one, but the Titans just play too clean on the front line. I mean, Aurora had a really good game. Benji, of course, ended up popping off as per usual on this Hercules. And Cyclone and Paul just keep on eating in the back line.
Ducky's going to need to do a lot of work if he wants to get this, but nobody is letting him get near this Titan. That's going to be a quick 21-minute win for the Titans here in game number 2. To close out this set against the Valkyries. A valiant attempt by them in that first game, but game 2, aggro just felt like it was all Titans.
That you know you're being very confident in, and a game where you just don't let up. I mean, it did take a little while for that first blood to come through again. Kind of not surprising with how tanky the Valkyries draft was, but there wasn't a lot of return damage to be had. That was, I think, where the big problem came through. The Titans were able to just walk forward, and they never met a lot of resistance to stop them.
The Valkyries try as they might to delay the game, I think, so that they could reach their appropriate power spikes for their composition to come online. Benji just was not messing around today, Gore. This Hercules has been an absolute strong pick here for the Tartarus Titans, and Benji was just able to facilitate so much of these team fight engagements, created so much space there for Scary D and for Cyclone Spin to just do whatever the hell they wanted, and it definitely made the Titans look great in the process.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those games where you throw those into the highlight reel, right? Like, you want this in your montage, not just for the Titans, but I think for all of these players, because you're just so far ahead. You know you're getting the kills. You know you're able to style on them. You can have a little more wiggle room. And they were just able to control the map so hard off of it. It wasn't necessarily a high kill count game. I mean, 4, 3, 3, what is that, like 6, 10? That's 10 total.
Just calculated engagements from the Tartarus Titans is really the primary message that I'm receiving off of this. It didn't seem as though the Valkyries were really trying to get all that involved again. Seemed as if they were trying to week 3. That's going to boost them on up to that 4th place spot now here in the standings. So the pressure's on the Jade Dragons now in their next set as they go up against the Olympus Bolts. And it's a big game for all 3 of these teams involved because Titans obviously trying to maintain that top 5 position, and after a great week like this weekend, they're definitely got to be feeling good about it. But for the Jade Dragons, now closing things out for week 3, Gore, up against the Olympus Bolts, and Bolts, you can imagine they definitely want to maintain that first place seeding.